Barak occurs 330 times in the Old Testament. Reverend Strong gave it the number 1288. There's also Barak, which is used 5 times, all in Daniel. That's the Aramaic equivalent, and Strong gave this the number 1289. Here's Barak in Hebrew. The first letter is Bet, with a kames vowel underneath it. The next is Resh for the R sound, and that's got a patah vowel for the A sound. Finally, a kaf to end the word. Barak. And here is Barak. The only difference is that vowel under the initial Bet. That's an S sound instead of an A. The two words are used in the Bible to mean much the same, but according to Bible Hub, Barak also carries a meaning of to flash, or to gleam, or to shine, much like halal, if you remember, from the second video in the series. Now, Barak is another word which started with one meaning, to kneel, but then expanded to another, to bless. Now you can see how one led to the other with someone kneeling to receive a blessing, except that Barak came to mean giving a blessing and not just receiving one. Now the Old Testament has a lot more blessing than it has kneeling, but there's one literal kneeling in Genesis chapter 24. The context here is that Abraham is very old and he sends his servant off to find a wife for his son Isaac. The servant goes off with 10 of the boss's camels, gets to where he's going and comes to the well just outside the town. And verse 11 goes, he had the camels kneel down near the well outside the town. It was toward evening, the time the women go out to draw water. And that kneel down is Barak. Nobody's getting blessed. It isn't even a person kneeling but the camels. Maybe those camels did feel blessed to be able to take the weight off their feet, but who knows? But let's whiz back to verse 1 of chapter 24 when it talks about how Abraham is doing. It says, Abraham was now very old and the Lord had blessed him in every way. That's Genesis chapter 24 verse 1. And that blessed is also Barak. So in verse 11 it was camels kneeling down. In verse 1 it's God blessing Abraham. Same Bible, same book, same chapter, same word, 2 different meanings. Now, where do we first find Barak in the Old Testament? Well, the answer to that is Genesis 1. Again, as in that last passage with Abraham, it's God doing the Baraking. In verse 20 and 21, on the 5th day, God creates the first living things, the birds and the fishes. And in verse 22 it says, God blessed them and said, be fruitful and increase in number and fill the water and the seas, and let the birds increase on the earth. That's Genesis chapter 1 verse 22, and that blessed is Barak. Again in verse 28, on the 6th day God creates the land animals and the humans, and in verse 28 it says, God blessed them and said to them, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth and subdue it, rule over the fish in the sea and the birds in the sky, and over every living creature that moves on the ground. Again, blessed is Barak. Interestingly, on the 1st, 2nd, 3rd and 4th days, God creates and says it's good, but he doesn't bless. It's only when he starts on what we would now call the animal kingdom that he blesses the work of his creation and adds, be fruitful and increase. And in that first creation story, the last thing God blesses is the Sabbath day. Then God blessed the 7th day and made it holy, because on it he rested from all the work of creating that he'd done. Again, blessed is Barak. Now, in the other creation story later on in chapter 2 with Adam and Eve, there's no Baraking, likewise through chapter 3 and the fall and Cain and Abel in chapter 4. Then we get to Genesis 5, which people do tend to skip rather because it's a boring load of repetitive begats with hard to pronounce names. But if we look at verse 2, he created them male and female and blessed them, and he named them mankind when they were created. That's Genesis 5 chapter 2, and that blessed is Barak again. Oh, and the word the NIV renders mankind is Adam. Now, a Barak blessing can be stolen. We're still in Genesis. Now, back at the start of the video, we looked at Genesis 24 and those kneeling camels. The story was that Abraham's servant had gone to find a wife for Abraham's son Isaac. The camels knelt down, Barak, at the well. Along comes beautiful Rebecca, who welcomes the servant, gives him something to drink, and also the camels. She's the one! There's a lot of toing and froing in chapter 24, but at the end Rebekah comes home, marries Isaac, and everything's okay until Rebekah has twins in chapter 5, Esau and Jacob. Now, even though the two boys are twins, the rules are that one of them has to be designated firstborn. Esau came up first, so he wins. Jacob came out straight afterwards, but he was holding on to Esau's heel, and everyone went, ooh, because in that culture, grasping the heel was a euphemism for deceiving someone. Well, the boys turn out very differently, but of course Isaac and Rebekah love them both equally and treat them just the same. Not. Rough, tough Esau is Isaac's favourite, while quiet, thoughtful Jacob is Rebekah's favourite. What could possibly go wrong? Well, in chapter 27, Isaac is now very old and blind, and he decides he's going to give Esau a special firstborn's Barak before he dies. And I'm sure you know the story. Isaac promises that special blessing, that special Barak to Esau, if he can bring him back some wild game to eat. So Esau goes off hunting. Once he's out of the way, Rebekah kills and cooks a kid, a baby goat, and tells Jacob to pretend to be Esau, so Daddy will give him Esau's blessing. Jacob doesn't think it will work, and in one of the weirder verses in the Bible it says, "And Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, Behold, Esau my brother is a hairy man, but I am a smooth man." But Rebekah has thought of everything. She dresses Jacob up in Esau's clothes and puts goat skins on him so he feels hairy. Then in verse 27, Isaac blesses Jacob, thinking it's Esau. So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed." Yes, and that word translated blessed is Barak. Now, when Esau comes back with the dead animal, Isaac can't give him the firstborn's blessing because it's already gone to Jacob. And you can read about that and the whole dysfunctional family of them in chapter 27 of Genesis. But that special Barak went to Jacob instead of Esau, and the rest is Old Testament history. Now, I'm sure you're familiar with what's become known as the Aaronic blessing. It's found in Numbers chapter 6. The passage starts at verse 22 and goes on to the end of the chapter. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell Aaron and his sons, this is how you are to bless the Israelites. Say to them, the Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. So they will put my name on the Israelites, and I will bless them." That's Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 to 27. Well, it's a little convoluted, isn't it? But here God is telling Moses to tell Aaron to bless the people by praying God's blessing on them. And as we've seen, the word bless is Barak. Now, the word translated as be gracious is the verb karan, which means to show favour or to have mercy. But at its root, it means to bend or to stoop to do so, which resonates with the root meaning of Barak, as kneel. Oh, and the New Testament equivalent here is charis, also translated as grace, the grace that saves us, and that takes us into a whole New Testament realm of meanings. So what is this blessing and what isn't it? Well, what it isn't is just asking for a distant and uninterested God to tip a load of random blessings on you: wealth, health, prosperity, success, joy, happiness, even winning lottery numbers. No, this blessing is actually a bit scary. It's asking God to pay you special attention, to make his face shine on you, to turn his face toward you, to show you special grace and favour, karan, to give you a special blessing just for you, Barak, and ultimately to give you peace. And again, not just any old lack of conflict, but God's rich, fulfilling shalom peace. And that's why the passage concludes, "So they will put my name on the Israelites, and I will bless them." And that's the Aaronic blessing, the Aaronic Barak. So far, the Barak has always been given by a greater person to a lesser one. So God blesses his creation. God blesses people. Fathers bless their sons. The blessing is handed down. So what are we to make of something like Psalm 103? Here are the first few verses in the New King James Version. "Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is within me, bless his holy name. Bless the Lord, O my soul, and forget not his benefits." That's Psalm 103 verses 1 to 2. And those blesses are Barak. So if Barak is something the greater does to the lesser, then who am I and what is my soul to Barak God? Well, the theme comes back at the end of the psalm in verses 20 to 22. Bless the Lord, you his angels, who excel in strength, who do his word, heeding the voice of his word. Bless the Lord, all you his hosts, you ministers of his who do his pleasure. Bless the Lord, all his works in all places of his dominion. I mean, it starts with, bless the Lord, O my soul, and finishes with telling the angels and then all of creation to bless the Lord. Well, what do we make of this? Some translators actually duck the problem, and in 9 of the English translations listed on the Bible Hub website, the word Barak here is translated as praise. The other 15 render it as bless, though. And there are 25 of these bless the Lord psalms in all. I'll put up a list at the end in case you want to take it further. In all of them, the NIV renders Barak as praise, or sometimes as extol, while the King James still renders it as bless. Well, you can't argue with the text, even though it seems to turn on its head the idea that it's the greater who always baraks the lesser. No, repeatedly in the Psalms we are called upon to bless God. But have you thought what that means? I mean, what does it mean when you sing Matt Redman's words from 2011, pinched from the Psalms? Bless the Lord, O my soul, worship his holy name. Or that newer song, Bless God from 23, every chance I get, I'll bless your name. Or the older Andre Crouch song from the 1970s, Bless the Lord, O my soul, and all that is in me, bless his holy name. Or the much older words from the Mass, Blessed be God forever, which is of course lifted from the even older Jewish blessing, Baruch Hashem le'olam. Now, as we said at the beginning, there's another similar word to Barak, which is only used in Daniel. In Daniel chapter 2, Nebuchadnezzar has a troubling dream and demands his magical advisors to give him the explanation. They say, okay, Your Majesty, what's the dream? And the king says, I'm not going to tell you, tell me the dream and its interpretation, or I'll have you all executed. Well, that escalated quickly. So all the wise men were being rounded up to be killed, including our Daniel. And he asks the guard what's going on, and when he tells him, Daniel goes to the king and asks for a bit more time. Then he goes home and asks his mates Hananiah, Mishael and Azariah, that's Shadrach, Meshach and Abednego, to pray for him. Then in verse 19 and 20 it says, Then the secret was revealed to Daniel in a night vision. So Daniel blessed the God of heaven. Daniel answered and said, Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, for wisdom and might are his. That's from Daniel, verses 19 and 20 in the New King James Version. And the next few verses of Daniel's prayer of blessing. But that word translated bless is Barak. The word crops up again in Daniel chapter 6 in the lion's den story. And we're back to literal kneeling. There are some jealous officials who don't like Daniel, and they know that he only prays to the one true God. So they get the king to sign a decree that no one's allowed to pray to any god except the king for the next 30 days, or they get thrown to the lions. Of course, Daniel ignores this, and in verse 10 it says, Now when Daniel learned that the decree had been published, he went home to his upstairs room when the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he'd done before. And that phrase, got down on his knees, is translated from Barak. Again, it means bless or praise, and also to kneel. Baruch, Barak, however you want to pronounce it, well, it deserves better than to be swept under the carpet, just translating it praise, as the NIV and other translations do. Barak, blessing, blessedness, deserves to be sung, it deserves to be said, it deserves to be meditated upon. Now finally, here's a quote from an American Catholic blog on the subject of Bless the Lord, O my soul. They say this, God's blessing is something outside of ourselves that he gives us. When we bless the Lord, we offer something from within ourselves to God in response. We use the same word to refer to 2 distinct but related actions. God blesses first, and our blessings of thanksgiving and adoration are always a response. So when we bless God, it's in response to the blessings he's already given us. With that in mind, why not go back and read the Bible references we went through earlier in the video? I'll put a list of them up at the end so you can pause the video and write them down. But there are plenty more in the Bible, 330 references to Barak in all, including the 25 Psalms where the psalmist Barak's God. Next time we'll look at Shabach, another word with quite a broad spectrum of meaning, and also its close relative Shibach. Until then, bless the Lord, O my soul.